Hi, I'm Virginia. I would like to have a few minutes of your time today to offer some tips for the application of the 3 coherence principles in e-lesson design. We often go wrong when we try to add sound, graphics, and words, being either text or narration, on our presentations. The coherence principle provides guidelines to avoid adding those interesting but irrelevant materials to our multimedia presentations, just in an effort to spice it up or make it interesting, which our Clark and Meyer 2011 text refers to in Chapter 8 as seductive details. I just knew this would be a good presentation example to use when I spotted this introductory slide. I would like to use this to demonstrate where at least 2 of these coherence principles on graphics and words can go astray. There was no audio on this original slide presentation. I am contributing narrated content, hopefully both relevant and coherent. The original designer chose a PowerPoint theme, border, and background, which I believe fits into the area of graphics for decoration, which have irrelevant value to the instruction or content. As I found in reviewing the PowerPoint, this extraneous background graphic theme actually hindered and was harmful to the presentation. This is an example. The text on this screen can't even be viewed because the graphic decoration is in the way. The information cannot be effectively communicated. The purpose of any multimedia presentation is to tell a story. It can be a very good story, but if it is not told effectively, no one will know. The extraneous graphics in the background theme of this PowerPoint are not in keeping with the needs of the audience either. This presentation is academic material for an audience of learners such as those in this class, teachers and education professionals. I find the childlike quality to be a little bit insulting. If I were going to present instruction to foundational reading teachers on phonics approaches and strategies for emerging readers, then maybe this crayon graphics background and border might be acceptable. But keep in mind, in choosing graphics to meet your audience at their level, don't dumb it down. Changes I would recommend might be to redesign the background theme. The coherence principle should not be interpreted to mean that e-lessons should be boring and stark and sterile. Changing the background to something such as this may give this presentation a more polished and professional look, at least in my opinion, and still give the designer some creative license. Next are the typography considerations. There are some absolute changes that need to be made here. This script or handwritten style of font that the designer used originally is difficult to read, and the blue and red font colors that you saw originally on the screen should be used judiciously. If one wished to remain true to the background and color theme, a dark color on a very light hue of background is the most desirable. And in this case, I think what I might do for the example purposes is change this to a font that is more crisp and clean. One that I find to be more clear and crisp and clean is Arial, especially on a computer screen. I think I would also change this to a dark color font, and maybe we could use a very dark brown, almost black brown. And I think we're going to also make sure we remove the underline. When people see underline, they think it's a hyperlink and they want to click on it. That could be very confusing. And this particular designer who put these together originally was very fond of these boldface bombs everywhere, and so I'm going to remove those. Another item I'd like to address with this slide is that there is too much text, as I said before. I think that this slide could very easily be split into 2 different slides. This text information is more embellishment of this main concept. I think that an appropriate use could be to do an audio narration of this particular information on this slide later on. I'm going to take it out for now. Making a little bit of change to the balance and legibility of this particular slide makes all the difference. Using the coherence principle, I'm going to go ahead and make this just a slight bit bigger. And maybe we might even make the text just a bit bigger. We'll make sure it's Arial, make sure that it is consistent. And give enough white space so that it's easy to read. Then I wanted to point out that this particular designer didn't use a lot of graphic material in the original presentation. However, there were diagrams and tables of this nature. This particular diagram, I think, is completely relevant to what the intended meaning was for this particular instructional presentation that was done by the original designer. What I'm going to do here is go ahead and make this all consistent. This designer seemed to go for this text shadowing feature, and we need to take that off. That's very hard on the eyes. We need to remove the boldface, and I'm going to make this consistent back to Arial font. Sorry, I'm trying not to make you dizzy while I spin that. And also keep it consistent with your color scheme. You maybe don't even need that. And also do a spell check. I think we need to make this scripted type of font face go away again. I'm going to make that Arial again and change it to a dark brown. There may be a little bit of extraneous text that's still in here, but I think now you see that in applying some good design principles that you have a much more professional look to a slide that is meant and intended for a professional audience. There's one other area that I would like to address, and that is on the introductory slide. I do believe that the introductory slide is probably where the designer can take the most creative license. And in this case, again, we want to make this consistent with the rest of our slide presentation. It's going to be viewed by a professional audience. We want to remove that shadow texting, remove the boldface, make it consistent with the Arial font, get the crazy colors off of it. This original designer also liked to use a lot of different alignments, but I think because this is an introductory slide, I'm going to allow that to continue to be centered. There's also one other item I'd like to mention on the introductory slide. For any type of presentation, take credit for your work, and this wasn't done. What I'm going to do is change that and give you a suggestion. And I hope that you can see that by applying coherence principles to avoid irrelevant materials in your multimedia presentation makes the multimedia presentation much more legible and acceptable, and would also make this, I think, a much more professional presentation to a presentation of to an audience of teachers. Now what I would like to do is one final thing, and that is to give you a little bit of a review on where we started and where I ended up. This is the introductory page that we started with. This is the introductory page that I ended with. Here is one of the slides that we started with. This is the revision of that slide. And this was one of the slides that was just entirely overrun with too much text, and the page was incoherent, and we started dicing that up. And this is where we start. And there may be additional slides that you might be able to put into this, and as I said, perhaps that embellishing text that was on there originally could be added to this through a narration. But I hope that you will see through my presentation how the coherence principles can help you to be a better instructional e-lesson designer. Thank you very much for your time today. If you do have any questions, please feel free to contact me, and thank you. Bye-bye.